Amanda, come on and make your way up. Amanda Dietz is from JPMorgan Chase. She has an awesome presentation that she's going to share. You guys can just flip all the way to her slides around the power of capital. She's so awesome. She started with us when we started with our Houston cohort in the beginning and came over to me so excited, a ball of energy. So you all are really going to enjoy it. Give it up for Amanda for me.
Thank you, Diane, and thank you for allowing me to present today on access to capital. So who here wants to learn how to get money for their business? That's what's up. Thank you. This presentation is called The Power of Capital. Why we're here. So I am a senior business consultant for minority entrepreneurs, and I want to educate you all on how my position was derived. So Chase has made a $30 billion commitment, and it's called the Racial Equity Commitment. And what they decided to do was they actually decided to build out roles on the ground, and one of the roles that they came up with was my role, so senior business consultant. We focus specifically on Black, Latino, Hispanic, women, and veteran-owned businesses. As we know, all businesses deserve an equal opportunity to prove themselves in the marketplace. Okay, so during the coronavirus and during the pandemic, I always make a joke. I used to have a different role. I could only take on clients who made $1 million, and now that is not the case. But when we talk about the pandemic, we saw so many problems arise. Everything became so much more evident. Our business owners were not ready with their financials. They didn't know where to go. So because of this coronavirus, there was just so many lessons learned, and we knew that we had to go back and teach our small business owners the fundamentals on how to get access to capital. So this is a statistic here. 39% of minority-owned companies feel their primary bank contact treats their business owners with respect. So this should not be the case. So what Chase is deciding to do is change that narrative, right? We know maybe in the past we have done things wrong, and we're saying, you know what? We want our minority-owned businesses to feel like they can trust us. Okay, so this is a question here. So I'm gonna start with number one, with being the lowest confidence. So in this room, and please be honest, how confident do you feel about your knowledge of business credit options? So who here feels like not confident at all? Okay, good, so I'm glad you're here. Okay, awesome. So two, you do know a little bit. Thank you, Denise. And three, I'm ready to dig a little bit deeper. Okay. 4, I have a solid base of knowledge. And 5, really confident. Okay, that's good. That's good. So these are the topics I'm going to be talking about. So cash flow, does your business need to borrow? Why are you a good investment? Financial data, what are credit options out there? SBA loan programs. I'm not going to go too much into detail because I saw Winston, he came in, so there he is. So I'm going to let him go into further detail and begin building your own empire. So we can go ahead and get started. So in this first section, we're going to talk about how to think strategically about cash flow. So cash flow is much more than money in the bank. I remember when I was a branch manager, I used to have a teller who would, she would always cross-sell credit cards, and she would do it from the drive-thru. She was actually really good. And she's like, do you want to earn more cash flow? And I always thought, does she even know what that means? It just sounds so good, right? But cash flow is not just the deposits that are in your account. It means truly, do you know the money that is coming in and the money that is going out? So cash flow needs to be managed. So here are some tips. So the reason why it needs to be managed is because what you want to realize is you want to be able to maximize the revenue coming in and minimize the expenses coming out. So at the end, your profitability is larger. You have to have some type of process. You have to utilize software. You have to have a great CPA or bookkeeper who is also helping you manage payables, receivables, and just like I mentioned, to maximize revenue and minimize the expenses. One other great tip is borrowing capital strategically can help ensure that you have cash when you need it. So does your business need to borrow? In this section, I'm gonna put my underwriter hat on, okay? So I actually used to be a business underwriter for Chase, and I would see thousands of loans from all over the US. So the first thing that I want to talk about is you need to remember, if you are going to decide to borrow capital, you have to realize that you have to have a plan to pay it back. So you have to know that you have the capacity, you can make those monthly payments. And the reason why this is so important is because there can be consequences, right, when you do not pay a business loan back. Number one, it affects your business and your personal credit. And then the second thing is that if you want to get more money in the future, it decreases that opportunity because we're able to see the history. Lenders are able to see if you were ever delinquent. So that goes along with you throughout time. Okay, so what lenders want to know? So later on in this presentation, I'm going to talk about the financial data that is asked for. But before I go into that, lenders want to know the story behind why you started your business and when you started your business. So there is a difference between owning your business and working for a company, because you can work for a company for over 20 years, but when you're an owner, you all are responsible for actually making that money, right? So it's so important that you establish your business, you incorporate your business, because lenders will want to know how much experience you have as an owner. The second question is your business profitable? So what I always say, in order to ask for money, you have to show that you make money, right? What we see, and you think that's really logical, but what we see a lot of times is business owners, they write off all their expenses and they end up showing a net loss. Well, then they come to, because they're like, I don't want to pay my taxes. I'm like, okay, but you're not going to be able to be lendable. You're not showing you make any money. So this is so important. Just to let you know, what I teach all my mentees is the top line is annual revenue, right? Then you take your expenses, cost of goods sold. Your net profit is the number that all lenders use. And what they do is they divide that by what current debt you have and what debt you're asking for. That's what cash flow is. That's literally the calculation of cash flow and what all lenders look at. Is your business seasonal? So depending on, if you're a Christmas store, of course you're gonna make more money during that time. You just wanna be able to explain that. Do you need to build credit? So just like you have personal credit, you need to start establishing business credit, and don't be afraid to do that. Are you looking to expand? So if you are looking to build out your business, you need to know the exact allocation and the money and the purpose of where all of that money is going. So I use this example. I used to work with a mentee who was, she was a gynecologist, and she was like, Amanda, I want to build out a med spa. And I was like, okay, cool, because I hate, sorry, TMI guys, I hate going to the gyno, but med spa, I'm like, oh yes, right? And I'm like, oh, well, okay, well, can you please explain to me what the breakdown of those cost analysis is going to be? How much is going to go to inventory? How much you're going to use for payroll? How much are you going to need for your equipment? You need to have the breakdown if you're going to expand your business, and you need to know where that money is going to be allocated. And like I mentioned, sometimes your business will require new equipment. We saw during the PPP, a lot of business owners had to pivot and start purchasing equipment that they didn't realize that they ever needed before. So if you do need equipment, know how much that's gonna cost, and do know some lenders do take equipment as collateral as well. Why are you a good investment? So as a business owner, you are the leader of that business, right? So it's so important that your operations management is placed. It's important that you really understand your cash flow. And it's important that you understand the importance of collateral, right? So sometimes business lenders will actually take collateral and secure it against the loan. So if you have commercial property, if you have assets, accounts receivable, they look at all these things and they consider that to see if whether or not you are lendable. Personal credit score versus business credit score. So this is very important. When I'm talking to my mentees, what I always mention is Your personal life choices are gonna affect how you run your business and whether you are lendable. That is just like number one. And I've seen it happen so many times. I'll give you an example. There was a food truck and they were doing extremely well. So when they turned in their financials to me, there was like a $2 million loan. And I was like, what is that? And they were doing so well, they decided to buy a $2 million house. And I'm like, okay, now what, now cash flow doesn't even pass, right? You have to understand the personal life choices that you make will affect whether or not you can even get business credit, especially for businesses who are starting to grow and scale. What are they gonna base lending you business credit? They're gonna look at your personal credit score. So here is where we'll go over what financial data is looked at from lenders. Loan officers want to feel confident that extending credit to your business, like they want to know that you have the capacity. So this is when we're talking about the actual numbers. They're going to want to see financials. The first thing that they're going to ask for is business tax returns. So it's important that you have your tax returns prepared and that you have a good CPA or bookkeeper, which that's something we'll talk about during the panelists is trusted advisors, right? And then another financial that they'll ask for is a balance sheet. So this balance sheet will give a picture of what assets you have versus liabilities. And on the next one, we have an income statement. And that's a profit and loss statement, right? So it's a breakdown of how much you're earning in revenue and in what categories and what your actual net profit is at a specific time. So now we're gonna talk about what are good credit options. So there are a lot of ways your business can earn capital. And on the next slide, I would suggest if you want to start establishing your business credit, the easiest and simple way is to get a business credit card. And I'll tell you, I know within my Hispanic culture, we've always been taught like, oh, like nombre, credit cards, like that's bad. And I'm like, oh, okay, but being in the banking industry, learning and growing, you're going to need credit in order to expand and grow and be successful. That's just the bottom line. The easiest way to start is a business credit card. Why? Because it's like a smaller line of credit, right? So you can use your expenses, you can pay it off, and you can actually earn rewards. And it's better than using your business debit card because it's actually much more secure and it's not actually connected to a business account. Business lines of credit. So getting a business line of credit is like a gem for a business. Why? Because this is a bigger line of credit than a credit card at a lower interest rate. And whenever you use it and pay it down, you're able to use it again. Remember, I'll reference the PPP and the pandemic because if so many of our small business owners actually had a business line of credit, then they wouldn't have been freaking out so much, right? Because they would have had that cash flow to keep the business going, to keep the doors open. So like it mentions here, using it for emergency expenses. And business lines of credits do have flexible payments as well. And the next one is a business term loan. So if you're gonna ask for a business term loan, this is when you have a very specific purpose. Like, you're like, well, I need to do leasehold improvements. I need to buy equipment. This is when you ask for a business installment loan, and this is actually at a fixed rate. But the difference is you're given a lump sum, and once you pay it down, that's it. So here are other ways on how you can get capital. So if Chase cannot lend to you, we have other options, alternative lenders, CDFIs, and I know Lyft Fund's in the room, Jose's in the room. So just know if you're not ready to be lendable by a bank, there are other options out there. You just need to learn about them. Then you have your venture capitalists as well. Usually in this case, they might want a percentage of your company. This is just a different scenario. And then small business grants, which this is probably everybody's favorite, right? Anytime I come across grants, and Denise knows this, I'm like, okay, Okay, email, go, 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 go. And the reason why I do that is because what you will see, the small business grants, they're only open for a very small period of time, right? You need to have those financials ready. You need to have your pitch deck ready. Whatever it is, be ready because the doors will close. SBA loan programs, like I mentioned, I'm not going to go too deep. SBA does truly help out a lot of lenders, especially like Chase. So if you're a startup business, you're an emerging business, or say you're in a high-risk industry and the bank is like, oh, okay, this is a little bit risky. What do we do? Well, guess what? They then make your product an SBA product. What then happens is Chase will guarantee 50% of that loan and SBA will guarantee the other 50%. Why? Because in case that anything happens and they default, Chase actually only loses 50% of that money and the government is actually helping for that other 50%. So just like I mentioned, there are SBA loans out there. So this gives you lower down payments, lower equity injections, more time to pay off your loan. And I believe during the pandemic, they actually started waiving SBA fees as well. So there are so many ways that SBA helps out all lenders. All right, so this is begin building your own empire. So what we hear a lot of times from business owners is that they want to build their legacy. They want to build generational wealth to help educate, give you those resources so our minority communities can start building that legacy. Now, how confident do you all feel? So who still doesn't feel confident? I hope nobody raises their hand. Okay, good. You know a little. You can be honest, sorry, that was kind of like, okay. I'm ready to dig a little deeper. Okay, good, thank you, Kathy. And then I have a solid base of knowledge. Good. And then now we feel very confident. Oh man, okay. Become part of my mentorship program. No, I'm just kidding. So thank you all so much.
For more information, visit b3elevation.com.